Hello, in this video I will share with you how I calculate a number of stitches to knit a hat. It is a little bit different from regular garment because hats always start with a rib stitch. And if a hat is completely knitted with a rib stitch, like here, one by one, then this way of calculating number of stitches is very, very useful. If you use a certain stitch, not a full rib stitch for your hat, that of course you have to calculate using that particular stitch that you are going to use for your hat. But now it's very fashionable rib stitch hats, so I thought it might be very useful for my viewers. What I recommend you to start is make a rib stitch with a different needle size, because every yarn is different, and I personally started here with the needle number 9 millimeters. 9 millimeters is, I will tell you now, 9 is size 13 US. Then I switched this part to needles 5.5 millimeters or US size 9, and I still didn't like it very much. And only number 5 is what I like, or US size 8. So now I'm satisfied with the look of my rib stitch, and calculating number of stitches using rib stitch is very difficult. So what I recommend you to do is to continue stockinette stitch. For that, make a full row of knit stitches on one side and purl stitches on the other side. I will show you. So let's do knit stitches, full row, and make that about 5-6 rows, depending on your needle size. If your needle size is very small, then probably you will need 6-7 rows. It depends. I will show you how to calculate it exactly, and that way you won't make mistake. Last I always purl. And now the other side, I will purl all stitches. Of course, first stitch I always transfer and then unknit it, and then just purl all stitches till end of the row. Just regular purl stitches. I'm knitting continental. You can see it, right? And I will do a few more rows, and I will show you how what the difference it makes. So again, one row knit stitches, one row purl stitches, and another knit stitch, knit row, and another purl row. I will do it off the camera, and then I will turn it back on to show you my calculation method. Here are 6 rows, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes. 6 rows of stockinette stitch. So knit stitches on one side and purl stitches on the other side. I'm not going to use them for my hat. I need it just to calculate number of stitches. Now you can see the difference in size. I even removed the needle, and I recommend you to do the same because it is just a swatch. I have on my swatch 22 stitches, 2 for edge stitches and 20 are for main part. Now to calculate number of stitches, I have to measure it, but do not measure here or here. just measure the second row. I will turn it around, make it easier for you to see. See, over here, I will measure here on the second row of stockinette. That's why you need to knit a little bit more to have it really open. I think measuring tape is easier to use, so it is about 5 inches, or 5 inches are 12.5 centimeters, about 13 centimeters. I have to write it down. Give me, I said 5 inches, right? 5 inches, or it is 13 centimeters. Now, my circumference of the head, for example, is 52 centimeters, or I will check how many inches it is. 52 centimeters are 20.5 inches. 20.5 inches. And how many stitches I need for 20.5 inches? Make sure you write measurement under measurement and stitches under stitches, right? So this question is, you go across 20.5 multiplied on 20 and divide by 5. And now I will calculate. So 20.5 multiplied by 20 and divided by 5, and it equals to 82 stitches. That's how many stitches I need to cast on for head circumference equal to 20.5 inches or 52 centimeters. With centimeters, you do the same. 20 stitches are 13 centimeters, and 52 centimeters are how many stitches? So we do the same thing, so that stitches equal to 52 multiplied across on 20 and divide by 13, and that will be, so let's do it, 52 multiplied by 20 and divided by 13, and it brings us to 80 stitches. See, about the same, because centimeters and inches are just a little bit are off. So that's what it is. I personally think that this is a better number because centimeters are more precise. With inches, it's a quarter inch, half inch, it's just, maybe it should be quarter inch. So I always recommend to use centimeters. But it doesn't give big difference, it's 2 stitches. Now, to put it all in a circle, in other words, to knit seamless head, you need even number of stitches. See? To make sure your rib stitch will continue. Knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, and then knit. There won't be purl, purl, or knit, knit next to each other. But to put it in a circle, you need always 1 extra stitch. That helps us to put it into the circle. I will show you now how to do it. So I need 80 stitches, and I'm going to use sock needles, and there are 5 of them, right? And I will cast on 20 stitches on each needle, or 3 needles, and 21 on the 4th needle. You can cast on any way you like. Now I will show you how to cast on these sock needles in case somebody needs it. Just make a loop, and this is stitch number 1, and now 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So for one needle. For next one, now I'm taking next needle and I will do the same. 1, tighten it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Already 40. Another 20. 1. Make sure you are tightening the stitch when you change the needle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And the last one, it needs 81. 1, 2, sorry, it needs 21, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Now I have 20 stitches, 20 stitches, and here are 21 stitch. And this is the last stitch. Now I have to connect this and this, needles and stitches. How to do that? So one more step. Make sure that all stitches look the same way, not the other way, see? Make sure they're all aligned at in the same direction. And now, this is 21 and this is 20. Now, from this one, this first stitch that I cast on, I transfer on my right needle, and now this stitch I will pull over that one, see? And now this I will return back to left needle, and I will have a 20 on every stitch, or on every needle. That's it. Tighten this, and that's it. Now I will continue, start and continue knitting and purling. So first I knit, I have to change, add one needle, right? Because we need 5 needles, fix one. Now this is the end. Knit one and purl one. Knit and purl all around. That will be the beginning of seamless hat. And continue the same way all around. because I have 80 stitches, in other words, even a number of stitches. I will never have 2 knit stitches or 2 purl stitches next to each other. It will be always purl, knit, purl, knit. So this is purl, next is knit, again purl, next will be knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, and so on, and the purl. Now next needle, next 20, this is purl, so I have to start with a knit stitch, of course, knit, purl, and so on. I will finish the row and show you. Purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, purl, knit, purl. Done second needle, next 20 are done. Now next one, next 20. This is my end, cast on end, and I will continue. This is purl, so next is knit, purl, and oops, sorry, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. If you have 20 or even number on each needle, then the beginning stitch and end stitch will be always the same on every needle. Last is purl, and last 20 of this row. Again, see, this is purl and this will be knit. Every needle starts with a knit stitch and ends with a purl stitch. Knit, purl, knit, purl, purl, knit, and purl. And that's it. And see, and this is a purl stitch, and this needle starts with a knit stitch. See, this is a knit stitch and this is a purl stitch. Because of even number of stitches, the rib stitch will continue. Now I will show you one more row because there is a trick. When you knit return rows, you always look at the stitch from its face. Now when you do around, when you knit around, you always look at the back of the stitch. But again, it depends on your knitting technique. But see, normally I used to knit through the rear loop. But here I'm looking at the back. So whatever comes first, see, front loop comes first. So I'm knitting through the front. But purl stitch, see how it looks? So I need to purl it through the rear loop like this to maintain the straight looking or open looking stitches. See, on this side it is a knit stitch, of course. Okay. And again, knit like this and purl through the real loop. But it depends, again, I'm repeating, by your knitting technique, but I think that will be the case in any scenario, because we're looking at the back of the stitch. Normally when we knit a return row, that's how we're looking from here. But because we're continuing in a circle, we're always looking at the back of the stitch. So keep that in mind if you're doing it first time. See, if I will knit normally, as I do in a straight rows and return rows, then if I do it from front loop purl, look what happens. See, it's crisscrossed. If I do it from the rear loop, see, it is not crossed, it is opened. See, it is open, not crossed. So I'll show you on knit stitch. If I do through the rear loop, it is crossed. You can see the crisscrossing here. See? If I do it front loop, that's what it is. Now, the same with the purl stitch. If I do through the front loop, see what happens? And now I will do it through the rear loop, and it opens. See? It's completely opened. So keep that in mind. Unless you want it to crisscross, then it's a different story. It also looks nice. And in my plans as to make a big large scarf with that crisscross stitch is very interesting. Meanwhile, I will continue knitting and purling, and that's how you should continue doing for the hat if you want a rib stitch hat. And by the way, in the first few rows, control the connections. Make sure you do not turn it over like this. See, because it happens. So control it. Just a few rows, 2 or 3 rows, and then you won't make the mistake. And here it is. I completed 2 rows. How I know? Because here is the cast on end. See? Of course you can put the pin or marker here, but I always know by the end. Cast on end. See? That this is the beginning of the row. But if you're a beginner, you can put a pin here or marker, whatever you want. So that's what I wanted to show you in this video. I hope it is useful for you, or in your next project you will use it. In my next video I will show you how to turn this into a very fun and very easy to make child's hat. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.